You're listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
I have an update.
A personal update?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what you're
You will
going to say.
literally never guess what it's about. So, do you remember earlier this year when I was very worried that my hair was falling out?
Oh, I mean,
No.
I had forgotten that,
Don't
but yes.
scoff.
But yes, you did say that very briefly.
Briefly, I harked on it many times. Harped on it many
I
times.
thought you were making it up.
Well, I have good news on two fronts. One, I was right. Two, it's growing back.
How do you know you were right?
Because I'm noticing all these little baby hairs like sprouting up.
Do you think it was stress?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
adrenal fatigue. It was like, you know how women who've had kids, probably some of them have had this experience. Your hair falls out like after you give birth. Like you lose a lot of hair because it takes so much adrenaline to push a baby out of your body that then 5-6 months later, they've got all of this like new hair growing back because that just kind of adrenal fatigue does that to your hair. So that's what happened to me is that
Well, thankfully,
I genuinely wasn't lying.
It wasn't so bad.
And you tried to gaslight me about it.
it wasn't noticeable to anybody else. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, it was noticeable to me and it freaked me out. But
You didn't have like bald patches.
No.
You didn't have like
but it felt thinner to me.
noticeably thinner hair to other people. But I'm glad it's growing back.
But it's
That's a good
growing back.
sign. That's a
And-
good sign.
You know how I also found like a patch of gray hairs around that time? Because not
Yeah.
only was it falling out, it was gray. It was like, I can't find it anymore.
Well, lucky you.
I swear to God, I can't find it. Not saying it's
My
not there.
gray started years ago and they
know.
have not gone away, but that's probably normal when you're in your 30s.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I didn't find the gray hair until I was like 33
That's pretty rare.
was impressive, but I can't like I've looked and in the same spot, I can't find them anymore. And I did
That's
pluck
good.
out, like, I mean, I would always pluck them out when I would find them. But like at this point, some of them should have grown back and I can't find any.
Yeah.
So it might be
Okay.
growing back its normal color
Things
because
are
I'm not
looking
so
up.
stressed. Exactly.
Things are looking up.
So I'm not graying and balding anymore. Yeah, I'm gonna need that, you know, as an advantage being single in my 30s. You know, any edge, I'll take it.
Any edge. Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Glad that life is not so stressful. I still think I know you have always been more self-critical than anybody ever would be of you. And so
Can't everyone copy paste that to themselves? It's not just a me thing.
exactly. But that's why I was like,
But it
I wasn't
is
trying to not believe you,
disconcerting
but I do. You're
when
like,
your hair's falling
you're
out.
like, do I have weird lines around my mouth? And do I have, you say things all the time
but I
like
definitely
that.
do.
That I think you're just making it up.
I'm not making it up. It's real and it's there. I'm sorry if you're not observant of my face. You should be paying more attention to my face.
I'm not going to tell you that you have weird lines around your mouth. I'm looking at your mouth right now. No lines.
When I do that, I
You
do.
do that, you do. Everyone does.
And then when I don't do that, you can still see the faint places
She's
where
pursing her
they
lips.
were.
You can't obviously see her.
Okay, well, whatever. I do have
Okay, we went
wrinkles.
off the rails here, but Rachel is healthy and we are happy for that.
Well, I went through a big stressor.
Yeah, you
And
did.
yeah, so just like empathy to anyone going through something very stressful because it does take a huge toll on one's body and can take a while to recover.
But your body
But you
can
can't
bounce
heal.
back.
You can
Mhm.
heal. Anyway, I thought you would be interested in that.
I had no idea where you were going with that one. She likes to surprise me as much as everyone else.
I thought it was entertaining.
on the podcast.
Okay. Well, this is
Okay.
a Dear Krachel.
Shall we jump in?
Well, no, because we have, well, should we?
We do have. This was a
Okay.
little self-serving,
This was our
but
but it
why
made me
not?
laugh. Someone submitted this as a Dear Krachel.
This is all. Why are you both so amazing? Okay, thanks, bye. I signed a fan with 4 exclamation points. So that was
Honestly,
fun.
I can't tell you. Philosophers will be contemplating it until time immemorial why we are so amazing. Thank you for listening. I don't feel amazing many days, but the fact that you think so makes me happy.
Well, we do love nice little notes. It makes our day. So thank you
Appreciate
for
the love.
whoever that was. A fan. Thank you to a fan for that nice message.
The one fan we have. Thank you. I know we have like at least 10. Okay.
Okay. Now we'll actually get into real questions. Hi, Krachel. Lately, I've been wondering if I should pursue being a coach. And I was wondering if you could share your process for helping people decide if it's the right move for them. You've mentioned before on the podcast that there are ways of being a coach and that there are pros and cons. Can you share what some of those are? What are qualities of a good coach? How do you pick a path or a training to do? Thanks in advance. And that is from Coach Curious.
Okay. I wanted to answer this question because I figured that more than one person listening is probably similarly curious because it's just,
If you're listening to a coaching podcast,
Yeah.
there's a small percentage of you who are listening
Yeah.
because you're curious about being a coach yourself.
and don't
It's
fast,
just normal.
And don't fast forward through this if you're not, because I'm going to drop some wisdom about knowing what kind of coach you might want to work with and how to trust like who you're working with and who you're hiring.
And how to know when a career is the right one for you, whether it's a coach or something else.
Yeah, I think this will be relevant probably beyond just the coaching profession. Okay, so we're going to try to keep this sort of
It's a lot we could
brief
say,
because
but
we could say so much about this question. Okay, so I think one of the first things you need to know about coaching is the difference between coaching and therapy. Or really coaching in any other modality, because there's like consulting, which is telling people what to do based on your experience.
mentoring
coaching-
or training.
Sure,
Mhm.
we're not going to get into all of that.
No, but there's nuances of different modalities, and coaching is its own distinct
Yes.
type of modality.
The way that I have often described it, and this resonates with people, and it resonated with me when I first heard it, was that coaching and therapy kind of exist on the same spectrum, but that therapy is best used when it's taking you from dysfunctional to functional. Like, I am unable to get out of bed because I'm so depressed, or I am very inhibited by my trauma and I can't think clearly, or I'm having
I can't keep a job because I can't be consistent because I'm, I have mental health challenges,
Whatever.
or
Right.
I have some trauma that I haven't worked through,
right. A lot of it gets back to trauma, of
Mhm.
course.
which is why therapy often also addresses the past to get you to
Yes.
present and functional in
Present.
current day.
Therapy is very different than coaching in that often when you go to therapy, and I know this as having been to therapy and having worked with a lot of people who've been to therapy and have sort of told me about their experience, that therapy is often an exploration that doesn't necessarily have a stark, clear agenda. It's kind of like a wandering and an exploring. Whereas coaching is, again, on the same end of this, on the same spectrum, different end. It's meant to take people from functional to optimal. So you can get out of bed. You might have some mental health challenges, because don't we all? But it's not necessarily like hampering you from living a mostly normal life and showing up at your job and doing your duties as a, parent or whatever. But there's a really big gap between I'm functioning and I'm thriving as a person. And coaching is meant to help you get to that point.
Yep. Essentially,
It has an agenda.
therapy is best if you're like, I'm not fine. If you're like, I'm fine, but I'm not great.
I am nowhere near great.
That's probably a sign that coaching is a better modality for you. So when you're thinking about becoming a coach, then that's
a great question.
a great question is where on that spectrum do I want to work with people? Do I want to help people go from not fully functional to functional? Or do I want to take people who are already functional, but they're not living the life that they really want to be living, and help them overcome that next bump. And some of what you'll be doing will be similar, but a lot of it will be quite different. And the types of relationships and conversations you're having will be heavily influenced by where you are on that spectrum.
Another huge difference between coaching and therapy is that, again, if therapy doesn't always have have like a structure to it, it can be very open. Whereas coaching usually has a structure. It has an end point in mind. It has a goal in mind. It has an agenda, and it has homework in a way that therapy often doesn't. Like, I know therapists will sometimes be like, do this, but they don't necessarily check in with you about it. And there's not like watch this and then report back on this. Like, we do that in coaching. There's a structure, because the point is not for you to be there indefinitely. The point is to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And then hopefully you don't need coaching indefinitely. If you need coaching indefinitely, something is probably you probably need to be in therapy.
Right.
Like,
yeah. And that's because the intention is different. The intention in therapy is more focused on healing.
yes.
The intention in coaching is more focused on forward momentum, which means it is inherently more actionable.
Growing. It's growth.
You take the insights that you're having and do something with them, integrate them, implement them, make changes based on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's intended to take you from the present into the future that you want to be moving into.
Never really thought about it as therapies for healing and coachings for growing, but I think that's actually true.
Not that you don't do both in both, but there's a heavier emphasis on one or the other,
depending on where you are.
Now,
So
you talked about what are the pros and cons. So hopefully that helps with what is it, right? And
yes,
am I actually attracted to coaching, or am I more attracted to something like therapy? Or maybe if what you really like is giving advice and sharing your expertise, that might be more on the consulting or advising side of the spectrum.
Yeah, because coaching is not giving advice.
You're not ever telling anyone what to do. You're helping them discover the best answers for them, because you recognize as a coach, I don't have everyone else's solutions.
Yes.
And what works for me or works for another client may not work for this client. It's very tailored. And there's a lot of exploring together to find the right, very tailored, personalized solution.
Mm-hmm.
In consulting or advising, people are typically coming to you saying, you're the expert in this. Tell me the process that I need to follow, or tell me the best practices that people in my organization should be following. And you share those and advise on those, and then let them go their merry way. So that's a different type of support as well. So take that, integrate that, sit with it, see if one calls to you more than another, because there are similarities and there can be overlap. There can be coaches who sometimes consult.
Yeah.
There can be therapists who sometimes use coaching practices. It's not always perfectly clean lines.
No.
But there are different emphasis and intentions.
Okay, pros and cons of becoming a coach. One pro is that, unlike becoming a therapist, there's a lot less education that you need, and there are a lot fewer rules. If you become a therapist, it's like you kind of are locked into the healthcare system, and you're not allowed to work with people outside of your state because you're licensed in that state. With coaching, the pro and the con is that anyone can call themselves a coach, and there's no laws that regulate it. If you call yourself a therapist and you're not a therapist, eventually someone will arrest you.
Right.
If you're a coach calling yourself a coach, no one's going to come to arrest you because there's no laws around it, which means sometimes it can be hard to find someone who actually knows what they're doing, or to trust that someone knows what they're doing. We'll get into training in a minute, like you can absolutely find like credible, worthwhile coach training programs. Kristen and I went to one, obviously, but it doesn't take as much time to learn, and there's not a lot of regulations and rules around it.
Which is a pro. And that's also a con, because sometimes you have to distinguish yourself from people who are calling themselves a coach, but may or may not actually be a trained coach.
Yeah.
And you might encounter people who had experiences with coaches who weren't really coaches. And sometimes you have to kind of battle the perception that they've gotten.
Yeah.
Whereas as a therapist, you can still have bad therapists, but at least you know that they've been through training.
Yeah.
A lot of it and a lot of education. Again.
Sure. I'm sure good therapists are battling the,
perception of bad therapists.
Exactly.
Of course.
But everyone goes through that. So, okay. I would say it's a misconception about coaching is that it's this, if you go get trained as a coach, somehow you'll also know how to run a business.
Or that you even have to run a business.
No, you don't have to do that. Nor is coach training the same thing as business training. Let's be clear on those fronts.
So I do think it's really important to recognize becoming a coach is a skill set. And then you can use that skill set in all kinds of different capacities. You could go get a job working for somebody else as an internal coach, or you could do contract coaching work, long-term contracts, or you could have your own business the way Rachel and I do. So,
or you don't even have to call yourself a coach. A lot of the people we met in training were like managers who were there to get coach trained to be a better leader in their organization. A lot of people who become coaches never walk away calling themselves a coach.
There's a lot of people in human resources who use a lot of the same skills as coaches use. So you'll find there's always a percentage of HR people in coach training.
Huge percentage, like people who are doing organizational development and like culture change and that type of stuff often end up in coach training.
So I think the reason I'm saying this is I think there is a automatic pairing in people's minds between being a coach and running a business.
And you never have to do that.
Maybe that's what you're interested in, but if you're not, you don't have to do it that way.
No.
And if you do want to do it that way, like Rachel said, there's a whole other skill set to learn, which is business ownership, running a business, marketing, all of that. That's not the same thing.
That would be like going to culinary school and thinking that you're going to know how to financially manage a restaurant.
Exactly.
Nope. That's not what you're going to learn at culinary school.
Culinary school, you're going to be a really, really good chef.
Yeah.
A restaurant owner is a different job. Now, you can combine them if you want to, but you'll have to learn other skills.
Yes. Okay. Training. I could say 18,000 more things on each of these points, but I have to keep it tight.
We're trying to do the most common questions we get about coaching.
So I am very adamant, Kristen is too, on this point, which is that there are two sort of ways you can approach coach training. One is I'm going to go to a coach school that teaches me how to do something that is like niched already. So there's a health coach training program I want to go to, or there's a relationships coach training program I'm going to go to. I am a big proponent of don't go to a coach training school that only focuses on one thing because it's missing the point.
Unless it's like a nutrition program and what you really actually want is to learn about nutrition and maybe a few coaching skills. And then you're more of a nutritionist who has a few basic coaching skills. If that's what you're looking for, fine. If you want to be a good trained coach, then go to a school that's going to teach you how to be a coach first and foremost, and then specialize later.
Thinking that coaching someone around their health is different than coaching someone around their relationships or their career is a fallacy. That's like treating a tree as if its branches are not connected anywhere else. So if you're going to a coach training program that's branch level, I think that's the quality of education you're going to get, to be honest.
And you're not really becoming a coach. You're becoming an expert with a few coaching skills.
Yeah.
If you go to I'm thinking of, I have a lot of clients who have been interested in nutrition coaching, but it's not pure coaching.
No,
if you're doing nutrition coaching,
consulting.
You're kind of being a nutritionist.
Yeah.
Unofficially. And then you learn a couple coaching skills so that you can personalize it a little bit.
That's not the same thing as being able to get to the root of someone's deep blocks and shame and like help them move past what's holding them back and then help them clarify who they are on a very deep level. And like,
right. If you want to build diet plans for people,
great. Go to nutrition coaching school.
If you want to coach them on changing their behavior in meaningful and sustainable ways, you need to become coach trained.
A well-trained coach, which gets to the root of that tree rather than hangs out on the branches. And so Kristen and I went to IPEC, which stands for the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. And they technically have you like pick a track Did you remember how like completely irrelevant that part was? It was like maybe
so
5% of the curriculum was focusing on your track. Guess what track I picked? Relationship coaching. Guess what I'm not? A relationship coach. Guess what I've also done a lot of in my life as a career coach? Relationship coaching. Because when someone gets in, you're coaching them around their whole life. It's not, people having career issues is often not about their career. It's about the fact that they've harbored a ton of blocks. And let's say, oh my gosh, I'm a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say no, and I can't set boundaries, and I have no idea who I am. And that's manifesting in my career. But guess where that's also manifesting? Your relationships.
And everywhere else.
Everywhere else. So if you treat your career or your health or your relationships like they're fundamentally different, then you're not actually getting to the core of where you need to go in order to shift someone. That's the kind of coaching Kristen and I learned how to do, was non-contextual coaching, like identity level coaching, deeper than your situation. So that's what I would advise. Do not get certified in situational coaching.
No, that's actually, you're not going to be able to help the people you want to help. And you're going to get frustrated too, because you're never really going to get to the root of it. And you're not going to be able to create the kind of changes that you want with your clients. So
learn how to coach the whole person, not their situation. That is the takeaway there.
Helpful way to distinguish if you're looking into training programs is you definitely, and I'm not even going to say like this is the last line of filtering, but the first line of filtering should be making sure that it is an accredited program
by the ICF,
the International Coach Federation, the ICF. They are the accrediting body of training programs. And if they have given it their stamp of approval, that means it's going to be the deeper,
no, not necessarily. It means it has passed certain bars. Would I endorse every ICF accredited program?
No, that's why we're saying
I would not.
First line.
Because some of them are giving you a very basic education and they've still technically passed the bar. And some are giving you a very, very deep comprehensive training while having, sailed over the bar.
Think of it like standardized test. Your teachers can teach to the SATs or the ACTs or whatever, but a really good teacher teaches that and a lot more, well beyond the standard. So you at least want to make sure you're getting a program that's hit the standard. But we would highly recommend some of the top programs that have gone way above and beyond. And the thing that was most important to me, and I chose the program we chose IPEC, because they have so much built-in practice. You are not just learning concepts. There's so much coaching that you have to do just to complete the program. So by the end of it, you are a good coach. You can't help it because you've done it enough times and you've gotten enough feedback and you're not just intellectually understanding something.
Not only that, I'm going to go a level deeper than that, because this is probably why you and I had a great experience at IPEC, is because I think a lot of programs give you hands-on experience. What a lot of them don't do is expect you to walk your talk.
Yes.
So what I loved about my coach training experience was that they expected you to integrate what you were learning.
Every single thing we learned, we applied first and foremost to ourselves.
Because you can't be a good coach if you're not walking the talk. And a lot of coach programs will just teach you how to do it and you'll practice it, but no one's holding you accountable for actually challenging your own thinking or any of working through your baggage and the stuff that comes up as you're learning how to do this for other people. You cannot do it well for other people if you are not first doing it for yourself. And a program that expects you to do that and then holds you accountable for doing that and gives you a lot of practice at doing that is going to make you a master at it, not just someone who thinks they know what they're doing and actually is not embodied or integrated. I hate that idea that there are coaches walking around out there who aren't in integrity.
100%.
Yeah.
We know that they exist. And we want to make sure that if you want to do this thing, you do it in a way that prepares you.
And doesn't give me a bad name because you're out there being a bad coach.
Well, and you're not going to have a good experience. Your clients are not going to have a good experience. You're not going to be able to grow a business or grow in your career if you don't have the right skills. So we want you to get the right skills. There's one more question you asked a whole bunch of questions that I don't think we answered. But what are qualities of a good coach? To be honest, you don't need any skill sets to go into coach training, but you do need some qualities.
You need to be open-minded.
You have to be open-minded. You have to be a good listener, and you can learn how to be a deeper listener in the training. But if you're not already interested and curious about people, then this is not going to work.
Obviously,
for you.
She's not asking. Like, she wouldn't even be asking this if she was a know-it-all who thought.
I don't think this person is, but there are some people who are like, oh, that's a cool way to make money on the side or something. You have to really be interested in people, and you have to be someone who
is willing to change their mind,
constantly wants to grow yourself, and doesn't get bored by helping other people want to grow.
Intuitive, empathetic, of course, and compassionate. That helps. Patient, that helps. Obviously, I'm not that, but to each their own. Everyone has their own flavor.
With other people, you can be much more patient. In your own life, that's a different thing.
Yeah, I mean, some of my clients would probably be like, well, but they get me, and they get who they needed. Let's just put it that way. So,
but if you have all of that, you're perfectly primed to learn the skills to enhance your natural soft skills.
Coaching is a skill set, not a profession. That's how I like to think about it.
100%.
It's more of a way of life, to be honest. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of showing up. It's a way of communicating, not necessarily a profession. I mean, you can turn it into a profession, but a lot of people get trained. And again, they never call themselves a coach. They're just taking that ability with them everywhere they go. It makes for a very valuable addition to one's resume, to be honest.
Absolutely. I wish every
person. I mean, I wish every person had to get coach trained.
I wish every person. But if I couldn't make every single person, I wish every leader or manager or anybody who has to be in charge of other humans and hold them responsible, I wish they had coach training. Because, oh my gosh, are there a lot of bad managers out there? Okay. That was a lot
enough about that. Well, I like talking about it. I'm sure a few people found that helpful. And
hopefully it helps people who might be interested in getting coached.
Yeah. Understand
what to look for.
Yeah.
And how to sift through. There's a lot of coaches out there. How to sift through who's legit and who's going to really help you and not just give you a Band-Aid. Nobody wants to be a Band-Aid coach.
A lot of people are, and they are because they're not trained well.
Yeah.
So don't skimp on training. That's the last thing I'm going to say. If you think, oh, well, there's a $2,000 program and a $14,000 program, I guess I'll just do the $2,000 program and I'll get the same experience. Okay. Well, you do get what you pay for to a point. And then there are some programs out there that are kind of scammy.
Sure.
And will charge you 20 grand. Also, avoid the ones that are like, we'll guarantee you clients. If they're guaranteeing you anything like that, run away. It's a pyramid scheme.
Or if it feels primarily like a business training with a little bit of coaching on the side.
Right. Like, we'll help you start your online business and we'll help you start your website.
Fine. Okay. That might be helpful if you want that skill set also, but that's not your coach training program.
Right. Yes. Again, you want to become a chef? Go to culinary school. You then might need some training if you want to run a restaurant. Those are two different things. If someone is trying to sell you on the fact that they are the same, that's probably a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. If it's like, we're going to teach you how to run a restaurant and maybe we'll teach you a couple recipes while we're doing it. Okay. But you might want to hire a chef. You shouldn't also be the chef.
Yeah. If it sounds too good to be true, ask questions. Okay. Wow.
Let us know if that was helpful. Hopefully we didn't overwhelm you.
Okay. Question number 2. Dear Krachel, how do I know if the person I'm dating is my forever person? Someone I should marry. I'm 46 and in a committed relationship, but I struggle with tying the knot. I always wonder if I'm settling. What if there's a better fit for me out there? I'm very loyal and I would never cheat. I'm also a side hustler through and through, and committing forever to one person seems impossible. Ugh. Sarah. Oh, Sarah.
Sarah. Okay. It's a good question. The energy behind the question feels a little bit like grass is greener, side hustlery. So we'll get to that. But the first question is, how do I know if the person I'm dating is the person that I want to marry and spend my life with? And I feel like we got to start there. I will first of all direct you to our recent normal person interview with Rachel.
Hello.
Because
last month
she gave a really, really critical, I would say, groundbreaking first anyone had ever heard of this framework, or I don't know what we're going to call it.
What's a framework?
Sure. About how to know if there's true compatibility.
Yes. The 5 C's of compatibility.
And compatibility is the 6th C.
It is the 6th C. So, Kristen be knocking over my equipment while we're trying to podcast.
Compatibility.
Okay. So go back and listen to my episode from August about renovating every area of my life in a year, because halfway through that episode, I'm not sure exactly when, I give you my 5 C's of compatibility. So Kristen's bringing that up because we want to know how compatible you are with the person you are with. Because there are 2 things that could be happening here. You have settled and you do deserve more, but you don't know what you want, or you convinced yourself it's not possible. And so we need to work on you getting clear on what you want and what you believe is possible so that you can be a match to something that really does like light you up and excite you. I don't want anyone to be in something that they feel like is fine indefinitely.
Remember how we just talked about coaching going from fine to optimal?
Yes. I don't want you to be fine indefinitely.
I don't want you any part of your life to just be fine.
However, that's one option. The other option is that you are in a good relationship that is meeting your needs and your criteria, and you are compatible, and it's your side hustler energy is making you question whether or not, you can't do better and better and better and better, which is a very side hustler thing. So
classic
is it
FOMO? It could be classic side hustler.
Is
FOMO.
it like I'm in a 7 that's never going to be better than a 7, and I really want a 10 because I resonate with that. I can't do 7. I can only do 10. So I feel you on that, Sarah. Or are you maybe in a relationship that is like an 8 or a 9, and we could there might be things we can do to make it feel the pinnacle of how you want it to feel. Like it has the potential to get to a 10.
Is a 2-way street, right? And so you can grow together and get, grow closer to that 9 or 10 together. If you have the compatibility to start with, if you have all the right foundational pieces to start with, then that might be possible. Right. And the side hustler part of your brain might be saying, yeah, but is there a better 9 or 10 out there?
Right.
And if that's the case, then that's crazy making, right? Like that's just going to make you feel constantly doubtful that, because again, if we're comparing 1 9, quote unquote, versus another 9, all that means is
I told Kristen
a different
earlier,
set of pros and cons, right?
Exactly. I told her, let me come up with 2 more, I guess, pertinent examples. That's like, my board of directors from Forever Alone, how I have a board of hot men who I consult about dating related questions in my mind. That's like, oh, you've got Jamie Fraser on one side and you've got Mr. Darcy on the other. They're both 10s.
Right.
But like, you're going to have different problems with each of those people and different challenges with each of those people. Like, okay, if you pick Jamie Fraser, you don't get Mr. Darcy, but like, can you make it work with Jamie Fraser? Right. Or is she just in a 7 that doesn't even have the potential to get to a 10, in which case I don't want her to be in a 7.
Right. Now, I'm going to say the way you wrote this question, Sarah, feels like it has the energy of option 2. Because, and this might be that you just didn't say this, in which case you might be like, no, trust me, I'm in a 7 and I want a 9. And that might be clear.
I get the sense that she probably doesn't know how to tell what the number is.
But we've gotten questions before about relationships that were things along the lines of, we've been dating for a while, and then there's this yellow flag. I don't know if it's a red flag, and I'm feeling this hesitation. And are we really that compatible? You answered, the way you asked this question was, I've been dating someone for a while, but what if there's somebody better?
Yeah, it wasn't like there's all these
marriage
things wrong
is scary
with it.
And commitment is scary. And I'm kind of having grass is greener syndrome.
Right.
So the energy feels more like you could have a 9 and you're like, but what about a different 9?
Yeah. She's a maximizer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which I feel like there's a sweet spot, right? Like you can maximize to a point, but then from then on, everything else is kind of at that same level, just different.
Yeah.
And you could just keep doing different over and over and over again and never actually get quote unquote better. There's one more thing that could be going on. I'm wondering, is this about marriage?
Oh, yeah.
Is marriage the thing that's tripping you up? And if you were just with this person,
forever boyfriend,
just a forever boyfriend without the title or commitment of marriage.
Know. I just realized that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think
the person I'm dating, whatever, your partner.
Because if you ask yourself, if I was just with this person and we never got married, but we just kept being together because we just loved being together and we loved doing life together, does all this go away? In which case, the answer might be simple. It might be, why do we need to get married? Where's the pressure to get married coming from? Do I actually need to do that? Is that the right thing for me? I don't know if that's right or not, but I want to throw it out there because if that neutralizes some of your uncertainty, great. You can let that go.
Right. Are you getting pressured to get married? Because clearly it's not your idea.
From this other person, from your family.
Right.
I don't know. So I want to give you that option. Like you can just not do the marriage thing.
You don't have to get married. Absolutely. Okay. So I really do empathize with the side hustler struggle of committing to one thing forever. So if you don't want to get married, great, don't get married. You're allowed to think of your relationship as, I like you pretty good. Let's see how it goes. You don't have to say, I am absolutely for sure going to be with this person forever. You're allowed to say, let's be together and let's, if there ever comes a time where it is not working, then we don't have to do it anymore. Like I know that people make these forever commitments, but you do realize that half of people end up breaking them. Mm-hmm. And also life will sever you from people at times. Cruelly sometimes. I'm not trying to prepare all y'all, to be widows or whatever. I'm just saying like we make these commitments and we don't actually know what's going to happen. And so it's okay if you think of your relationship as I enjoy being here today. It's kind of like when people think about sobriety, they can't think about being sober for a year because it's very overwhelming, or 10 years
or forever.
But their job is only to not drink or not, shoot up or whatever today. Mm-hmm. That's it. I know that's hilarious to compare you being in a relationship to trying to get sober, but you are allowed to think of it as, how do I feel, right now? And I don't need to know how I'm going to feel a year from now or 5 years from now.
I've known of couples who decide they want to get married, but then they decide we're going to check in every 5 or 10 years and renew our vows and be like, do we want to keep doing this thing?
Yeah.
You could make that kind of a pact with this person if it feels like this is the right person, but I'm just afraid of the whole forever thing. The way you asked the question at the beginning, how do I know if the person I'm dating is my forever person?
Does anyone ultimately know?
You don't. And that's the scariest part of it all.
How does I think the forever part is the scariest part for a side hustler?
Yes.
So it's more like, how do I know if this is my for now person? Well, we assess how compatible we are according to the 5 C's trademark of compatibility. And we get clear on, okay, am I getting my needs met? Is there something that I would really like out of a relationship that I have given up on thinking I can get? Can I get it from this relationship? Or if I were to give myself permission to just want what I wanted and not apologize for it and not hold back, would I be able to get it out of this relationship? Or would I maybe need to be single and open myself up to the possibility of someone who wants more? Also, this just occurred to me. Monogamy doesn't have to be your thing.
Sure. Not only do you not have to get married, you don't have to be with just one person if you don't want to be.
If you want to be poly, you can be poly.
I mean, assuming this partner is into that.
Well,
too,
exactly.
In which case,
don't be Don't
That
do
could
it if they don't know. That's cheating. And she said she wouldn't
She said
cheat.
she wouldn't cheat. And that's good. That might break your seeds of compatibility if you have a very differing opinion
it might
about
go
that.
against your values to do that. And that would be fine. I mean, I'm not the expert on polyamorous love, but I am just going to give you permission to not, like, if being locked into something that feels very traditional just isn't your thing, I want to give you permission to just not feel like you have to box yourself in any way if you don't want to. So I think you got to be honest with yourself about, what do I want out of a relationship? Am I getting what I want out of this relationship? Don't think about what you like. Am I getting what I want out of this relationship? Is there something that I could be getting that I'm not getting that maybe I've given up on, or I think is not possible? And could I get it out of this relationship? Or do I maybe need to go find it somewhere else? And then part of your challenge as a side hustler, if you want to be in a committed relationship with anybody, is going to be finding excitement in the mundane, because relationships can be very mundane. But if you're with someone long enough, and I know this because I've been married to Kristen for 15 years. I mean, not really, but kind of. Not married. I would say our marriage
Legally.
began a decade ago.
But we are
Maybe
legally
11
tied
years ago. We are.
through a business.
The only thing we don't do is have sex. That's it. Everything else, we co-parent a thing together. We have shared bank account.
We don't reside together
any
anymore,
longer, but we used to.
We did for a while. Yeah. And our marriage has evolved
Many times. I think Esther Perel or someone like that says that if you're married to someone long enough and with someone long enough, if married isn't your thing, you're going to be married to or with 7 different versions of that person.
So there you go. You might get your variety all in that one person.
You can,
if you're there long enough.
Right. So Sarah, I want you to just be honest. Like, I personally have a history, and if you've listened to Forever Alone, you know this, of being in relationships that were very unsatisfying and underwhelming. And I kept myself in them because I didn't believe what I really wanted was possible. I was capping out at a 7 because I didn't believe in a 10. So if that's you, I want you to give yourself permission to admit what a 10 would be to you. And if you are actually in a relationship that's really great and meets your needs, and you guys are really aligned, you're just having FOMO, then, okay, we're going to have to maybe with your partner, come up with ways that you can get your side hustler needs met in your relationship. Like, how do we find more variety in this relationship? How do we excite me and stimulate me? Because side hustlers need a lot of stimulation. Yes. How can we stimulate me more literally, figuratively in this relationship?
Mm-hmm. And you might come up with what is the framework around our relationship that works for us. Is it marriage? Is it something else? Is it
adding a third partner into your mix?
Is it being perpetually engaged? I've heard of that too.
Sure.
Just like getting engaged and you've committed, but you haven't actually signed any paperwork indefinitely. Mm-hmm. You can do it however you want to do it.
However you want. And you might have to deal with some people judging you, but sure, the toll you pay is that to live a life that's authentic to you.
Yep.
Don't box yourself in.
We just gave a side hustler a whole bunch of options.
I hope you liked it.
Hope you liked it. And I hope you're not like, the FOMO just got bigger. I can do all the things now. But this is where it's going to take going inward and getting really honest about if I could have the relationship that really works for me and the life that I want and the love that I want to give to another person and the way I want to do that, what does that look like? What does that structure look like? And at that point, all the rest of the options are not even relevant. Let them go. There's no FOMO because that's not for me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let us know what you think.
Okay. I could keep talking about that one. I really could, but I'm going to shut up.
We've got a lot to say about all 3 of these questions.
I know. Okay.
Okay. Here comes the third one. Dear Krachel, I'm 57 years old. Over the years, I've battled to understand, adapt, and rise above several major emotional hits in my life: work, family, health, spiritual, and financial. But have finally been brought to a place of deep burnout. I have not been in the workforce for a couple of years as my confidence, energy, sense of purpose, and vision have flatlined. I recently came across your website and completed your passion profile quiz. I came out as a fire starter, which actually explains a lot. Thank you. I'm working on repairing my health, but my concern is starting again, discovering and stepping into a new career path at this later stage of my work life, particularly in light of my profile. Would you please speak into this? Is it too late? Where to start, etc.? And this is from Bozzieboo. Well, I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I think it's a username.
I doubt it's a real name.
I don't know.
It's probably a username or just like fun character that I don't know about from some show.
It's a fun name, but anyway. I don't know if I might have butchered it.
I might call her Boz. Okay. So,
a few pieces of this one to get into.
Okay. I want to go on a slight tear about the notion of starting over.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the idea of starting over is a fallacy. It is a trick we play on ourselves. Because we do this all the time. We think, I quit a job, now I have to start over in another field. I ended a relationship after 5 years, now I'm starting over as a single person. What you mean is you're starting something new. You don't actually mean you're starting over because you didn't just get a reset.
The only way you're starting over is like you just got into a car accident and got amnesia of the past 20 years of your life. Okay, maybe then we're sort of starting over. That's not you. That's not you.
No.
I think you would have told us that if that was your health issue.
You can't rewind time. So no one is ever starting over. We're acting, when we say that, it's like we're acting as if all of the experience that we've just had didn't count for anything. Mm-hmm. Or that all the time and the energy that we've invested in our career or our lives or our relationships isn't going to be helpful in something new.
I hear this all the time from people who want to make a career change or any kind of life change. Oh, I'm afraid of starting over. There's no way that you can be starting over. Now, if you're nervous to try something different, that's different. That's normal. Of course you are. Everybody's nervous when they're doing something different for the first time. But you are more prepared based on all of the past experiences that you have had leading up to this than you are giving yourself credit for. And I know you're doing this because we all do this.
Here's why this is dangerous. Okay. I know it's like, Rachel, this is just semantics. Yeah. And words matter. We did a whole episode about it. Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. Like the language you use can actually change your physiological, emotional makeup, and your literal mental health can be influenced by the words you're using to describe your situation. So when you say starting over and your reaction to that, your visceral gut reaction to that is that feels heavy, that feels overwhelming, that feels exhausting and scary, then that's what you're priming. Like you're saying that, and then you're feeling those feelings and you're experiencing that awful kind of like heavy feeling at the thought of starting over. It means you don't have any motivation. You've just sapped your motivation because you're thinking about it the wrong way.
But when you're trying something new, there's still nervousness. Of course there is. But there can be excitement too. It feels a little bit more accessible. It feels more like possibility than starting over. Nobody ever wants to start over on anything.
That's like, I just wrote a 10-page essay that's due tomorrow for my college,
and then the Word doc didn't save and you got to start over from scratch.
Literally, that's how some of you are acting. Like you just acted like I had a 5-year relationship and my computer ate it. And now I have to start over. No, you don't.
Because even then I'm like, you went through the process of writing the 10-page paper. You think you didn't you didn't make any mental connections there. It would be easier to write it again, even if you don't want to. But you're not even in that situation. You're not being asked to do the same thing over again. You're embarking on something new, a new possibility. And that has a different energy to it. So I do really think there's value in changing your internal dialogue around it. And if we're going to if we're going to be going off on rants about certain aspects of this, I got to talk about the age thing. I have to talk about it's too late, or I'm too old to make this change or go in a new direction. I have coached enough people at this point.
A
decade of coaching people. Guess what? Nobody thinks they're at the right age. Nobody. Yeah. Everybody is too old or too young for what they want to do.
No one has ever been like, I'm the perfect age for this. This is the best time ever to do this.
No one has ever said Never happened in the history of coaching. Which means there can't be a right or wrong or old or young age to do
or
anything.
Circumstance beyond just age, situation.
And everybody looks at somebody else's age or situation and says, that would have been better. And you know what's funny is they're often doing that for each other. So I have people in their young 20s saying, I'm too young, I'm too inexperienced. Maybe when I'm in my 30s or 40s, I'll do this. And then I have people in their 30s and 40s saying, I wish I had done this in my 20s. And now I can't do it now because I'm too old. I have people in their 30s who have young kids who are saying, I can't do this until I'm retired. Maybe when I'm in my mid 50s, I'll do this because then my kids will be grown and I won't be as distracted by all of their needs. And then I have people in their 50s saying, well, I'm too old. I can't do that now. So we have to recognize age means nothing in the fact that it's completely relative. Everybody thinks somebody else's age or situation is better than theirs, which means we all just have our own unique situations to take into account.
To accommodate.
That's it.
What's funny is that they're all right. Yes. And they're all wrong at the same time. Because in your 20s, what you're looking at is the advantage of doing something when you're older. When you're older and you're looking at someone younger, you're thinking about the advantages of doing something when you're younger. Mm-hmm. Everyone's looking at the advantages of being someone they're not, but they're not looking at the advantages of being who they are.
Exactly.
And that's what we need to do. Is like, okay, great. Yeah. At 57, you might have some disadvantages. I'm not going to gaslight you into thinking that you don't have cons, but everyone has cons.
At every age has disadvantages.
And you have pros.
Yes.
And so what you're not doing, which most people aren't doing, is taking stock of their advantages, which I don't know your situation super well. I got 2 paragraphs worth, but I do know that you probably have some advantages. You have more wisdom and experience.
You've lived 57 years of life. Right. You have a lot more life experience on so many different fronts, career-wise, relationship-wise, life-wise, than people half your age trying to do the same thing you're trying to do.
You having tried to do it 30 years ago.
And you're not giving yourself any credit for everything you've learned in your 57 years.
Everything you overcame, right? Another advantage is you said, I haven't been working for a few years. Again, we don't know your situation. We don't know what the finances look like, but I do know that, hey, if you're a fire starter and you're maybe have an entrepreneurial idea or zeal or spirit that you want to explore, not having a job is the perfect time to do that in a way that if you're 25 and you've got 1 million student loans and you can't afford not to have a job and you have no time.
Or you're 40 years old and you have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old constantly begging you for things.
Right.
That might be a harder time to do it.
Right. I mean, again, you have advantages and you have disadvantages. But if you pay attention to the disadvantages, you will just constantly have an excuse not to do anything. If you pay attention to your advantages, you will have reasons to proceed.
Yes. I also want to consider, we're talking about age, but what we're really talking about here is the specifics of your life circumstance.
Yeah.
The type of career you want now. Maybe you're a fire starter. You might, Rachel said, you might be having some entrepreneurial ideas. You might be thinking about starting something of your own, or at least working someplace where you can have a lot of independence and a lot of autonomy over your time and what you're doing. So if you're looking for something kind of fire startery, what you are looking for right now at this stage of your life might be different than what you wanted to create in earlier stages of your career. And that's okay. The kind of business that you might start or the kind of job that you might be looking for might not be what you would have created in your 20s or 30s. But that's fine. This could suit this phase of your life. So the question I want you to ask is, what do I really want my career to provide for me and create for me right now, right where I'm at? Do you want to start a business that you work at for the next few years and then you can sell it and retire off of that? Great. That might be different than if you were 27 starting a business that you wanted to work at for the next 30 years. You're creating something different. That's fine. Do you want a job that has a certain kind of benefits that you wouldn't have cared about so much earlier, but at this phase of life, they're really important to you? Great. Let's just consider, what do you need and want now, and not be so concerned about what an earlier version of you would have wanted or needed.
I just want to highlight, this is the ultimate question, because she asked, where do you start?
Mm-hmm.
This is the answer to that question. It's the answer to that question for anyone. I don't care what your passion profile is what do I want my career to do for me
at this stage of my life?
At this stage of my life. Because a lot of the time we're thinking, what do I want to do? Mm-hmm. Again, Kristen and I have belabored the point about it is not about what you want to do, because I am now in my, and I regret to say it, mid-30s. I believe
that we're solidly there.
I think that's just, that has to, oh God, I hate it, but it is the case. Okay. There are advantages and disadvantages to being at this age. Okay. If I were to start a business today, it would be very different than what I did 10 years ago. And if I answered this question 10 years ago, what do I want my career to do for me at this phase of my life? My answer a decade ago, or even, 11, 12 years ago, would have been, I want it to rescue me from, I want it to get me out of the 9-to-5 grind. And I want to just
deliver
inspire
me passion.
And I want to feel so passionate. And I want to inspire a bunch of people. And that's fine. That is totally fine. If that 23 years old, that's what you want. That's exactly what you probably should want when you're 23 years old. I want to make a lot of money. I want to inspire people. Great. Now my answer is different than what it was a decade ago. What I want my career to do for me is I want it to provide for me the ideal lifestyle that I want to live for the next decade of my life. Let's just put it like that.
And assuming we're still doing this in a decade, it might be very different then.
Right. I want it to mesh well with getting married and having kids. I don't want it to compete with my domestic life, for example. I want to be able to maybe travel more or something like that. You cannot think about your career out of context of your situation in life. Your career is meant to support your life and vice versa. You cannot think about your career in this vacuum where you're not considering your age and you're not considering your situation, not as limitations, but as just facts. It just is what it is. I am this age. I have this, this is what I want out of life. This is the phase I'm in. I'm not going to pretend I don't have 2 children who need me. I have to have a career that accommodates where I'm at and provides for me the life that I'm looking to live right now. That is the best question you could ask, 10 times more valuable than, what do I want to do?
Or is it too late? Am I too old? No, I just have a different set of needs and desires and life circumstances now. And I'm going to build or create or seek something that fits the me of today. Just like when you are think about the people that you were attracted to when you were 13 or 14 years old. And then the people that you're attracted to when you're a full-grown adult.
When you're in middle school.
Okay, where you're looking for different things.
You are definitely looking for, come on. We could be full-fledged adults at 20 and want very different things than we want at 25 even, or 30 or 35, right?
So why would our careers not be the exact same? We expect that what we're looking for in relationships or in hobbies or in whatever, friendships, would be different as we go through different stages of life. Your career is going to evolve too. So I hope that gives you a good starting place and doesn't make you feel like your age really has anything to do with it other than what your circumstances, what you want for your current circumstances.
Yeah.
That's it. You are no better off or worse off than other people. You just have a different set of skills and experience that you're bringing and a different set of needs. Just like we all do.
Just like everyone does. So what do I want? my career to do for me? What do I want it to provide for me? What kind of life do I want to be able to live? How do I want to be able to feel based on the phase I'm in right now? Knowing every phase ends.
Yep. So we're bringing in your phase of life and your passion profile together. That's going to point you in a pretty clear direction of at least what you need. Then what you fit into that in terms of the content of what you're doing, great. That's something that you can kind of, you have 57 years of experience knowing yourself and knowing what you want. You're better suited to answer that question than some of our younger listeners. But at least the context of what you want can be very much clarified if you ask yourself that question about what do I need at this stage of my life and how do I want my career to provide for me? And what do I need as a fire starter?
As we're wrapping this up, copy paste this to what we just told Sarah. This is not just about career. What do I want out of a relationship
at this phase of my life?
Not who's the perfect person for me. What do I want out of a relationship at this phase of my life? We're not focusing on what or who. We're focusing on how I want to feel and what needs I want to get met. Those are the better questions. Okay.
Ooh, we had a lot to say.
This was long. I don't even know how long it was.
Sometimes we have a pretty quick, clear answer for people. We had a lot to say. I hope if you made it this far, you got multiple nuggets, relationships and career, and
I hope you were rewarded.
How to find a good coach and all of that. But thank you for sticking with us. That was a lot. But if you were one of the question writers or just a listener and something resonated, please always tell us. We love that. We love to hear what stuck.
Also, I'm going to just slide in here at the end and tease that we are going to be bringing back, opening up. I don't know how we talk about it anymore. We're going to be taking on new coaching clients very soon. So if you are someone who's been thinking about working with us, or you heard this whole conversation and you're like, these are great questions that I do not know how to help myself work through. Great. That's literally what a coach is for. If you want to become the best version of yourself and end up in a great career and a great relationship as a byproduct of liking yourself and enjoying who you are and knowing who you are, that's kind of the point of coaching. So I'll leave a link in the show notes if you want to brush up on what working with us one-on-one looks like, so that when we're ready to actually take on new clients in a couple of weeks, you'll be prepared. Or you can just go to clarityonfire.com and go to the Work With Us tab and look at one-on-one coaching there if you want to.
So make sure you're listening to our podcast over the next couple of weeks. And if you're not subscribed to our emails, make sure you take our passion profile quiz to get on our email list. And we'll let you know when we officially open up the door for taking on some or accepting applications for more clients. But we wanted to give you a heads up so you can be thinking about it, reading up on a little bit, and have an idea of whether this is a good option for you and a good time for you, so that when we do open the doors, you can step right on through if you want to.
And now you should know whether or not we'll be a good coach for you, because we just told you all about good coaches.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thank you. That was a lot.
That was a lot.
We will be back next Friday
with a new normal person interview.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah, this is the one where I told you that she kind of went from like, oh, I'm at my rock bottom to I'm the happiest I've ever been, like 4 years later. And so we talk about her journey of going from point A to point B.
I love those stories.
They're the best.
Can't get enough.
Okay.
See you then.